Turns out Google has been paying Apple $20 billion every year to stay the default search engine in Safari on the iPhone. Just for that, $20 billion. And because it's one of the most popular phones in the world, and there's millions and millions of searches going through, all of those searches are now Google searches because they paid to be the default. And that's a partnership both companies have been willingly participating in for years because it's a no-brainer for both of them. For Apple, well, I mean, that's a pretty easy one. You just get a free $20 billion every year to keep it the way it is. People expect Google search. Great. For Google, well, that helps them secure their spot as number one by not allowing others to be the default there, and people aren't really changing the defaults very often. So that's millions and millions of searches for them. But this could all soon be getting thrown away. Because in the US Justice Department's trial against Google, they've argued that, this is anti-competitive behavior. This is monopolistic behavior. Apple and Google's net profits last year were both around $100 billion, which is, ridiculously huge numbers. But think about that. $20 billion of that just came right off the top for Google and added right to the bottom line for Apple, just to be the default for search in Safari. Those are huge percentages. Now, both companies in court are, downplaying how big of a deal this is, and I think both would happily keep these agreements in place since it's such a win-win. I think about this a lot. What if they just stopped? What if that payment stopped? And I think there are basically three distinct things that could happen here. One, which I think is the most likely, is nothing changes, like they just continue to have Google as the default search anyway, and it's fine because when you go to search something in Safari, you probably meant to Google it. I think it would be kind of weird if it suddenly was Bing or Yahoo search every time. I guess technically they could immediately change it. Okay, the money's gone. Google's not paying to be the default anymore. Maybe it could jump straight to like ChatGPT or something like that. They have been working with OpenAI. Maybe that becomes an expanded part of their partnership, although then maybe again, it's kind of illegal. But three, and maybe this is the most interesting one, there's a contingent of people who believe that Apple could deploy their own search product in place of Google's, their own Apple search engine. And enough of those people work for Google that's actually the reason why Google struck this deal in the first place, is because they believed that Apple making their own search engine would be such a big threat to Google that they needed to do this. So they called it a code red. They saw that searches from Apple devices at the time accounted for over half of Google's search business, and they couldn't afford to lose that. If Apple made their own search product, they could take half of their business. But yeah, obviously this is still developing, but it is fascinating that Google search actually has decently real competition now.